The National Cemetery in Chattanooga definitely feels like hallowed ground. I never served in the military myself, but I do have an affinity toward the military based on some of the people in my family who served. My mom's brothers, Jiggs, James, known as Jim, Hansel, Larry. My dad's brother, Don, who just recently passed away. These places remind me of the people in my family who are gone, who gave the ultimate sacrifice. They didn't all die in battle, but they definitely served their country, and their loss is felt as if they did. My mom's husband, George, was cremated and buried here. He was a bomber pilot in World War II, and I remember when he and my mom came to England when we lived there to visit, and we went to a museum, an Air Force museum, and George was able to show my kids the plane that he flew in, talk about the missions he flew. It was a humbling and extremely heartfelt talk that I'm sure my kids have never forgotten. There is a definite sense of awe and reverence you feel when you come here. No matter where people are parked on the side of the road, visiting the graves of loved ones, people walk a little slower, they talk a little quieter. Hearts are maybe just a little heavier. These kinds of places are necessary in our society. They are necessary because we should never forget. We should never forget the sacrifices of family members who came before us, and whatever conflict it was, and whether it is a conflict that is occurring now. We have men and women who are in harm's way every single day. And too often, we never think about them. I think that needs to change.
Well, I didn't set out to make a video that was quite so serious. I went to the art museum, and I walked in, and I was buying my ticket, and the lady who was kind of standing at the doorway letting people in looked at me, and she said, "Can I ask what's in your back pocket?" It was my Manipod Z. And I said, "It's just a little tripod kind of thing. I use it for my phone." And she said, "Is it a selfie stick?" And I said, "Well, not really." I said, "But it does extend." And she said, "Well, we don't allow selfie sticks here." I said, "Well, okay, I'll just leave it in my pocket." She said, "No, it sticks out of your pocket, and I'm afraid you might bump into something, so you're going to need to lock it up." I'd already bought my ticket. So I did a quick reconnoiter, is that the word? I did a quick tour around. I didn't stay but about 10 minutes, and realized that I don't have it, but that little credit card stand that I've been talking about some, I think I can use that to do most of what I had intended to do inside the museum. So I'll go back later for that. And so then I was like, okay, so where am I going to go? And I thought, well, I'll go to the zoo, take a walk around the zoo. And then I got to the zoo, and I was like, it's the middle of the day. It was around lunchtime. I said, I don't know that I'm going to get any decent stuff here. But the zoo is very close to the National Cemetery. So I just drove a couple more blocks over to the National Cemetery, and I had intended on this nice sort of detailed tour of the National Cemetery, but there was a service being planned there today, and they had shut down some of the roads that go through. And so I did a couple of laps around trying to figure out what I could do or if I needed to leave. And I thought, I'll get some footage here and I'll do a video about the difference between the National Cemetery and we have a small Confederate cemetery here in town that's, not even half as big as a football field. It's very small. No headstones. They've all disappeared. And I thought I'll kind of do this juxtaposition between the two. And then the more I videoed and the more I filmed, the more this came out. And so my idea as I was going along, a couple of things worked. And that was, my idea was I wanted it to be kind of like a 2020 story, the guy talking and then sort of walking while he's talking. And a couple of those shots worked. However, my camera was too far away. You really can't see me and it's not very clear. That's okay. And then I thought I was filming a lot of stuff at 60 frames per second. I could have swore I touched the little button to go to 60 frames per second. But when I got it into DaVinci Resolve, I had nothing in 60 frames per second. And so I tried to slow some stuff down for B-roll, but then it got real choppy looking, and I was like, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm not displeased with it. I think it has some promise as a storyline. My voice is a little shaky in it. I'm not speaking really, like I know what I'm talking about, and that's simply because I was making this up as I went along. I didn't know what I was going to say until I said it. So, the voice is a little shaky. I did use my Kamika mics. See if I can get this open. And they do plug into the phone. It has a little USB-C jack. And so the audio quality was much improved over the old little $28 set that I was using. But not everybody's going to spend that money, and so I'm trying to stay away from that if I can. Anyway, long story short, it is what it is. I try to do a little bit of, creative editing around me talking, sort of behind the scenes and then into the scene, and editing the camera movement inside DaVinci Resolve. I don't know. It was an interesting thing to do today. Before I go, let me just say this is being recorded on Wednesday. What is today? I lose track. This is the 7th, maybe. I don't know. And this morning when I still weighed 270 pounds. I lost 2 pounds, but this is not unusual. My weight loss usually goes drop a couple of pounds, go 2 or 3 days with nothing, drop a couple of pounds, 2 or 3 days with nothing, drop a couple of pounds. So I feel today like I am weighing less. I feel that way. I feel like tomorrow is going to be a good day. I'm hoping my scales don't let me down. We'll see you tomorrow.